Good afternoon. I just want to say, before I say anything else, wow. I mean, I have just had the most extraordinary experience over the past couple of days being here at the Oslo Forum. I'm really deeply impressed by the way in which the forum is bringing together groups of people that are so disparate and mashing them all together, all in the name of protection of human rights. It's something that we at Google Ideas subscribe to as well. I've been humbled and amazed even, moved by the stories that we've been able to hear. I think it's also impressive that the Oslo Forum doesn't just have experts up here, but people with lived experience. So I'm very thankful to be here. I want to thank Thor for the invitation that he offered, especially as it's a unique opportunity to present Google Ideas before such a relevant audience of wonderful, creative thinkers, passionate activists, experts in their various fields, people who understand technology, people who understand the substance of it, many of whom are also investigative journalists who I've come to appreciate as being the storytellers that we need increasingly around the world. I'm happy to call many of you friends, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to meet so many more of you. During the meal times, in the cafes, in the lobby, on the streets, in the hotel lobby, when I bump into people, I'm plied with three questions persistently. Scott, what is Google Ideas? Scott, why would Google do something like this? And probably most importantly, what do you guys do actually? And so what I thought I'd spend my time on is really talking to you a little bit about the answers to those three questions. So Google Ideas is not very old. We've been around for 18 months. We were formed by our senior leadership who are very passionate about what it is that we're doing. We describe ourselves as a think/do tank, where the thinking comes from many different places. It doesn't come only within Google. And the do also comes from various parts of and partners that we work with around the world. We take on specific challenges that are confronting us all. Challenges where technology has been underexplored or underutilized as a part of the solution set. Challenges that don't fall into an obvious corporate box or into an obvious philanthropic box. Challenges where there are a number of silos, where people are looking at them in various silos and not looking at the cross-cutting nature of these challenges, perhaps obscuring some deeper understanding. Challenges, frankly, like those that we've been discussing here over the last couple of days. So our small team leverages the company's resources in various ways to be able to reframe some of these challenges. That's our goal, to reframe some of these challenges, but to also think through new ways of tackling them. So that's the think-do part of it. We have 4 focus areas right now. The first is countering violent extremism, clearly not a core business interest perhaps, and not a core philanthropic interest. We also are focused on understanding and exposing illicit networks of all various sorts and character. We're interested in confronting and countering censorship and protecting our users online and developing innovative applications of technology in places that are weak or failing in terms of their governance. How can we maximize the fact that these states have more mobile phones, more connectivity to the internet that they might otherwise have? So that's a bit about what we do. I'm going to come back quickly to the focus areas, but I want to talk about why. Why Google Ideas? Why would Google do this? I think the simplest answer to the question of why is to point you in the direction of our founder's IPO letter of 2004. When Larry and Sergey introduced the company publicly, they wrote very clearly, Google is not a conventional company. It does not intend to be one. And I think that's pretty evident. And I threw up a couple images up here to indicate how unconventional the company has been. I think I'll just call your attention to one, the driverless car, which one day Larry, caught in traffic, thought, we waste an awful lot of time sitting in traffic. it would be so nice if somebody else could drive for us. Why don't we develop a car that does it? So Google Ideas fits into that mold. We're an extension of that unconventional nature of Google, I would say. But I think there's a second and deeper reason, and that is, as Rebecca was telling us, internet-enabled technology that has created all this connectivity and networked all of us together, 2 billion of us anyway, the final 5 billion are going to come online very, very quickly soon here, has done a huge amount for humanity in general. But it's also introduced a number of complications, right? Everything from child pornography to transnational crime to government repression. All of these things have also been made easier as a result of the technology that we're looking at. Just to give you a couple of examples, whenever you take human beings and you combine them with technologies and machines, the results can be marvelous or they can be malevolent. And any use case, you can think of positive and negative use cases here for any of the verbs on the left-hand side of your screen, hopefully. And just to give you a quick example, think about the Arab awakening. So I was talking to a Cairo activist recently who was telling me that during the revolution, he said, we used Facebook to organize the where and when. We used Twitter to communicate during the actual event on the day things were happening. And then we used YouTube to tell the world. But if you substitute Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist with the Egyptian activist, you see that it tells a very different story. And in fact, similar technologies were used during the Mumbai attacks in 2008, very similar ones. So our challenge as Google Ideas is to look over the horizon at what's coming at all of us and to work with partners to think about new approaches. Why? In part because when Google bought YouTube, it had no idea that it was going to have to know anything about Anwar al-Awlaki, that it was going to have to know how Los Zetas were using video for propaganda purposes and splatter videos, etc. And so we need to take a look at some of these issues, especially when right now, as we speak, 72 hours of video are being uploaded onto Google servers every minute. Every minute. How is all this information being absorbed? So what does think, do look like in practice? Well, consider our first focus area, which we labeled against violent extremism. By convening a lot of smart people in the space from around the world, we sponsored research through which we learned that radicalization is a youth phenomenon. It's the same everywhere. Its core characteristics are similar across geography, time, space, race, ethnic groups. And so we brought these groups of formers together who we felt were the most capable of communicating to people about why not to get involved in these groups, to plant seeds of doubt, and to help demonstrate that they exist. So we brought them all together at this summit.
For 20 years, I was a Muslim extremist.
My aunts, my uncles, my father, my cousins, everybody was a gang member.
They would hold me back and force me to watch as they stabbed my white English friends before my eyes.
Very early on, just not liking that sense of powerlessness.
I've stabbed 3 kids in my life, and I'm not proud of that.
When 9/11 happened, I actually celebrated the attacks.
The racist attacks led me to suffer an acute identity crisis.
I had to learn to fight back or else I'd get abused even more.
My first encounter with a gang was when I was in 5th grade. I was 11 years old.
I went to the streets for camaraderie, comfort. That's where the gang members embraced me and welcomed me with open arms.
Gangs, cults, extremist groups provide a strong sense of solidarity and brotherhood.
A lot of it was not being alone anymore.
All of my friends were involved. It was more like a family structure.
I had no clue what the difference was between true respect and fear. You can never look weak. Weakness gets you killed.
A lot of fights, a lot of beatings.
We were taught to hate people who weren't Muslim and to regard ourselves as superior, that we are part of something important and noble, despite the evidence we see to the contrary.
We would have training sessions every week, solid, for 2 hours that were compulsory to attend.
If a young person is considering joining a gang, prepare to die.
I could name off the top of my head 50 people that I knew and cared about who were now dead, and I didn't want to be added to that list.
I tried to keep this kid who was from the neighborhood out. He was 14 years old and he was murdered. He's probably the main reason why I do the work that I do now for the past 10 years, helping young kids like that.
What we had originally started was actually destroying us from the inside.
My main goal is to take the term former and make it cool.
The best solution is to make extremist ideas taboo through public awareness campaigns. Initiatives such as this at Google are wonderful for that.
So we're all learning how we can all work together in this big cohesive group.
I think that's what we human beings are all about, really, is our deep humanity. And I think this summit will manifest some incredibly profound human connections.
So I think this video demonstrates both the power and approach that we're trying to take in this space, to recognize that former jihadists, former gang members, former nationalist extremists, former gang members can be united in expressing a combined spirit against violent extremism, to work with survivors and telling them. These are three men who were white supremacist leaders in the United States movement, and they have, when they left the summit that we held in Dublin last year, they decided to dissolve their individual organizations and create one. And a lot of others joined them, and they call themselves Life After Hate, and they've been doing a lot of really important work, not only in the United States, but in Europe. We've also developed a web platform that allows survivors and formers to come together to seed new initiatives, new ideas, have people who are looking to fund them, find them here. It's like a Kickstarter, if you know Kickstarter, for these groups. The next topic that we're really exploring is illicit networks, as I mentioned. It's a huge challenge that we all face. We're going to bring people together at another summit later this year. Here, we're bringing unconventional stakeholders together. Here's a picture at Tribeca Film Festival, where we looked at how film managed to capture or not the lived experience of people who have both experienced and lived through the after effects of illicit networks. The summit that's going to take place in July is going to bring a lot of these people together, and if we focused on the human face of illicit networks at the Tribeca Film Festival, here we're going to be focusing on the application of technology as a way to map, expose, and disrupt these networks going forward. And then just to close very quickly, I wanted to talk about what we're doing in the area of human rights at Google Ideas. And here we're just leveraging really what Google as a company is already committed to. And so if you look at the UN Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, you contrast it with Google's mission statement, which is to organize the world's information and make it universally available and useful. It overlaps really well. So in this area, Google Ideas is looking to provide protection from censorship for individuals, especially in countries that are closed. We're also looking to surface important critical information for people in places like Syria and Burma so that they can do what they do more effectively. And I think importantly, we're picking up on a Berkman Center at Harvard recommendation that Google may be best placed to help human rights organizations protect themselves against distributed denial of service attacks. Those are just some of the things that Google Ideas is working on. I invite you to visit our website, but I need to say that none of what we do as Google Ideas can be done without partners who really deeply understand the nature of the challenges that you face, and we can bring you together with people who really understand the technology so that we can tackle some of these tough challenges together. So thank you very much.